I did try and start this YouTube video with no music because that's just not the vibe at the moment. It really isn't. Oh, I shouldn't even be smiling. Um, that's a bad one. That really hurts, and to some probably losing to Manchester City. I think their 15th win in a row at the Etihad against us. That's probably not going to come as a surprise, but any last-minute goal is an absolute sickener. Again, we've talked about this recently on the podcast about the approach to the episode, kind of how do you set yourself up to come on and talk about it. And I thought we were going to have the conversation about, well, is it a good point? Is a point enough? And then Nunes pops up at the back post and kind of potentially ends our Champions League aspirations for this season. No, you're shaking your head, Rob?
Nah, not for me. I said in the Q&A that we've got to...
Welcome back, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I said in the Q&A, our aim between now and the end of the season isn't to finish above Manchester City, it's to finish above Chelsea and Forest. And I didn't watch the game last night, the Tottenham match, but from what I've seen of the stats, Spurs certainly created plenty of chances, and a better team might have put Forest away. I think tonight, really, the commentator summed it up that we just didn't take any risks at all. There were so many times that either of the fullbacks or Rashford were making runs in behind, and the pass didn't arrive, and it was the same once Watkins came on as well. He was trying to run the channels, and you could see, I mean, the commentators even mentioned it, of they've delayed the pass whilst Watkins or whilst Rashford or whilst Rogers is getting themselves back on side. And it's because we delayed the pass to start with, and I think the starting setup was defensive, but I could understand it. But as we've talked about before, other than Rashford, did we really have a threat for them on the break? I thought Ramsey looked our brightest player, and he was the first one taken off. I thought Rogers looked pretty tired again, and he came off right at the end. And we're still miles off it at right back. And, it's not going to turn into a Matty Cash bashing session, but he got done for the first one, and Disasi got done for the second. And I think Torres should have done better for the winner as well. Didn't stick his foot anywhere near it, just let it go across the 6-yard box. And I think if Tyrone Mings had been playing centre-half today, I don't think they score that winner at the end. But I also think if Watkins had been playing up front for Manchester City, they'd have put us to bed easily tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I am stunned and grateful that there's even 300 people here. Thank you for tuning in. I was expecting like 20. So I should perk myself up a little bit because I've got a job to do here. There's a few comments saying, like, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? And it's kind of digging out, for want of a better phrase, some individuals. And we are going to do that. We're not afraid of being negative. I mean, we get called negative even when we're being positive. So, yeah, we'll talk about some individuals. It's just... sickener is the word I've posted on social media when I posted the link before we started, because that's just how I feel. I feel a little bit sick about the situation. It can still be done. Of course it can. You've got to win every game. I think if we were to lose one more, that would make it pretty impossible. Even if we'd have got a point today, you probably still need to win the other 4 potentially. So in some ways, maybe it doesn't change the job that Villa need to do. We need to win 4 matches. I think if we'd have won today, you could probably get away with maybe dropping a game in that final 4 and still being okay. But we have to now go and win the 4, I think, which is it's doable. We talked, didn't we, on Monday about a winning run, and I was called negative for suggesting Villa couldn't win 12 in a row. Well, 1 game played since that podcast and we've lost it. So there we go. But now we could go on a winning run of 4 or 5 with the semi-final or 6 with the final. We could do that. Of course we could. So it isn't over. But it's no longer in our hands either. We need other clubs to get results for us. I think John said in the Q&A about Chelsea Fulham and how he wasn't bothered about not bothered, but that Chelsea winning wasn't the end of the world because maybe we need them to play for something. Maybe we need Newcastle to just keep going ahead, and it's that gap between we just want Forest to keep dropping points. And if they do, if Forest only win 2 of their final 4 and Villa win 3 or all 4, it can still be done. But yeah, we are relying on the others now, which is not a position anyone wants to be in. I wanted to go into that final day thinking, well, as long as you win today, Villa, it's in your hands to finish in the top 5. And I doubt that's going to be the case now. We could win all 4 and still not do it, because we're not in those positions at the moment, and the other clubs could win all their games as well, apart from when they play each other, obviously. Newcastle, Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, Chelsea as well, potentially. But it's frustrated. Yeah, not great podcasting tonight. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't really want to do it. I'm sure most people can understand that. And thanks, Rob, for coming on, by the way. This podcast is sponsored by NordVPN, etc., etc. What did you think of the approach to the game and the style? Did we show them too much respect, a la PSG first leg?
Yeah, I think so. And same thing happened again with a last-minute sucker punch has done us from a fullback again, which just exposes our weaknesses down the flanks, as we've talked about recently. That again, a fullback has got in behind and scored past us, and the fact that he was there in that position in the last minute spoke to the way they approached the game. Although they didn't have an out-and-out centre forward, they seemed to defend as almost a 4-6-0. Yeah. But in attack, quite often they'd got 5 up against our back 4. So, and that was the same right the way to the end. And we just didn't take those chances. You know, we didn't take those risks. There weren't the early passes to try and get the runners away. We looked hesitant. Too often we were making sloppy mistakes. You know, in the first half we didn't look good, but quite often recently, you know, we have played at a lower tempo and tried to tire the other team out.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't work because, I mean, De Bruyne managed to get 94 minutes in it today, where really you would, if we were doing our job properly, you'd expect him to be knackered after 70.
Yeah.
So, you know, we didn't move them around the pitch often enough. They were, when we did manage to break the press, and we did it really well a few times in the first half, we still didn't release the ball quick enough. We were allowing them to either get back into shape or catch up our players and take the ball off them, or make those cynical fouls that they're famous for. You know, it didn't help again that at times it seemed like the referee had got cataracts. You know, it just, but that's by the by, really. If we play a lot better, that really becomes irrelevant. It's not. He didn't make any game changing decisions. I think the other thing I'd be thinking is, as much as Rashford had some good chances, you know, he took it around the keeper and he hit the post obviously after 18 seconds. But again, he's having to make those chances for himself. And I really feel that without Tielemans, we're struggling to look very creative at times. And I know that sounds weird when we've just come off the back of a game where we've scored 4, but you know, we tend to go from one extreme to the other. We look very, very blunt, or we look like we can pick people apart.
Yeah.
And tonight was the blunt one, and defensively, yeah, it was weak again. I've seen in some of the comments people calling out Torres. Be interesting to look at how many of the games where we've conceded in the last minute, where now just in the league, there's only Southampton have conceded more in the last minute than us.
That graphic popping up on the 90th minute is something I really didn't want to see.
Oh yeah, but it's
conceded 6. I think it was.
Yeah, it was 7, and now it's 8.
No,
Southampton have conceded 9.
Yeah, it's crap,
8 last minute goals. That's at this stage of the season. That's pretty much one every 4 games.
Yeah,
not good enough. And then yet again, the first shot on target goes in. And I text you during the game, and it's not something I've really said in public yet, but I don't think Martinez is having a good season. He's made some good saves, but I think if Robin Olsen's letting in some of the goals that he's let in this season, including the one against Newcastle, I think he should do better.
Yeah, same.
You know, the one tonight, honestly, I thought it was pathetic. Really awful. He basically threw it in his own net. He did against Forest as well. He is capable of
Done it a
those
couple of
brilliant
times.
saves, but I do wonder if, sometimes he's started to believe his own hype, and perhaps that is why we concede from the first shot on target so often, because other than Anthony Gordon at St James's Park, I can't think of many of them being worldies.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the comments that I referred to earlier about when can we start talking about X, one of those suggestions was Martinez, the classic kind of, when can we start having a difficult conversation about Martinez? Is it time to move on? That kind of vibe. I don't think it is, by the way. I think he's still a very, very good goalkeeper and one of the players that I wouldn't want to see leave. However, we've definitely talked about it on occasion this season about his form not being up to his usual standards. And his standards are very high. When he comes below that, it is easy to look pretty average when goals look like they're your fault. That the first goal today absolutely should be doing better with that. I think Gary Neville made a point on the commentary about
basically his goal, really. I'm surprised.
I thought it might have gone down as an own goal, actually.
Silver,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of tries to parry it, hits his leg, I think, and just kind of bounces in. And Gary Neville said something about, probably should just be catching that there. And that's something I normally would associate with Martinez. He kind of claims things that other keepers parry. And parry into danger, and that's absolutely not the first time he's done that. I don't want to get too doom and gloom, because I always try and say we might go and beat Palace at the weekend. Maybe we do win the final 4 games. Maybe we still have an amazing moment this season, but I don't care. Anyone in the comments saying, "Come on, guys, brighten up" and all that. We just lost the game in the 90th minute, like 10 minutes ago. Like, we're allowed to be annoyed by that. Football has its ups and downs, and the lows make the highs higher and all that crap. And maybe Palace will be amazing at the weekend, and Martinez will play a blinder, and Rashford scores a hat-trick or whatever. These things can still happen. Things change very quickly. But this show is always and has always been our instant reaction after the game. And instantly after the game, I'm pissed off, because we shouldn't be throwing that away in the final minutes.
No.
A draw would have been okay. It keeps us in the fight. It keeps City down with us. That I think they've got very winnable fixtures, but football is football. Maybe they drop points when you don't expect them to. I think City and Newcastle now run away with 3rd and 4th, and it's between us, Forest and Chelsea for 5th. But I don't think Forest need many more points, and we need to win all of our games. So it's very, very difficult. As I was saying all the way through this run, and somebody earlier in the comments said there, if you're relying on winning 10 of your last 11 games or something, you've probably left it too late. That's something that you shouldn't have to do. And it's definitely, as we touched on in the Q&A on Monday, results earlier in the season will come on to cost us at the end. 2 points against Ipswich, losing to Wolves, 2 points in that spell against West Ham, Wolves, and Ipswich. To get 2 points from that is woefully poor. Throwing away the points at home to Bournemouth in the last minute again. There's plenty of fixtures that have cost Villa getting into the top 5. Forest were winning away and going to lose the game. It's loads of occasions. It's not tonight that's going to cost us the Champions League. It's the other stuff. But the run that we've been on before tonight has given us this glimmer of hope of maybe we can. And to do that, it really kind of, I don't know, what was the point of putting a 5-game winning run together then, if you're going to go and do that in the 90th minute away at the Etihad? Do you know what I mean? It feels very cheap.
I think whatever happens, we'll look back on this season and see the last minute goals as being a real issue for us. The one in Paris being a standout, this one being a standout. The teams that win stuff win games really late on, and we very rarely do that still. A lot's been made of our squad depth, and rightly so, in terms of the attacking options and the midfield options that we've got. Defensively, I still don't think we've got the best selection to choose from, especially down the right flank. It's no coincidence at all that City only played with one out-and-out attacker, and he was basically playing wide left. They were playing like a 4-5-1, but the one was really a left winger. So they had 3 men up against Cash in the first half. So teams know where to get at us, and that was that was what we saw tonight. I think we've seen enough in recent weeks to feel optimistic and not feel like this is the end of the season. I still believe we can get Champions League football. I said in the Q&A that we were capable of winning all our remaining games. Just because we've lost tonight doesn't make us not capable of winning the games that we've still got in front of us. I think with it being the last minute, it's a real hammer blow. You know, that'll hurt more than if perhaps we'd have just got beat 1-0 to that early goal. So the onus is going to be on the manager and the dressing room leaders to be able to help lift everybody. But tonight we looked quite blunt as we set out and defensive and tried to hit them on the break, and it worked with getting the penalty. But then once we made the changes, not one of them really made any difference.
No.
And I think that the other thing I'd perhaps mention is that we when we saw Rashford and Asensio together a little bit earlier in the season, when they just joined, they were on the pitch together, and it seemed to be clicking quite well. And I don't know how often they've been on the pitch together or how long they've been on the pitch together since then.
Not often.
And you know, is that something? Are we? It's great that we've got the squad and we can make the changes, but are we indulging that too much? Was 5 changes too many from the weekend?
Well, I thought the team that we started with, I actually thought, I think, I don't know if I put an 11 together, but it was pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I think I mentioned it either on the post-match or the Q&A, that what we did with Forest and then PSG, you kind of knew the PSG lineup based off Forest. I kind of felt similar with Newcastle, that I thought Torres would play, I thought Dean would come back in, and I thought Rashford would start, and I thought Onana would probably stay in, and I wasn't sure whether it would be McGinn or Ramsey. Obviously, it was Ramsey in the end. But I kind of foresaw that coming, and I didn't mind it. I thought Torres probably suited this game better. Likewise, Dean and Rashford, you know, maybe the Manchester element plays a part. I don't know, but he looked relatively dangerous at times, although a little bit isolated as well. So I wasn't that bothered about the lineup, but obviously, you know, not the right lineup now, not the right tactics in hindsight. A couple of comments quickly. Ken M donated £2, and Davey said, "Can we get a shout out for Ken for donating in capitals?" But Ken's not left a message; he just says £2. So thanks, Ken.
Yeah, nice one, Ken. Do we get one each, or what happens to that £2?
Just goes in the company's pocket, mate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sadly, I don't see any of those hard-earned pounds. But thank you anyway, Ken, for supporting the show. That's the main thing.
Nice one,
Michael says, "I ain't heard the fat lady yet." Yeah, fair, absolutely fine. Raphael says, "What a title, Dan." And it is Man City deliver a swift kick to Aston Villa's Champions League plums. I thought at least try and be a little bit creative with the title, draw people in that way, because no one's listening to this crap. But there is people here listening, so thank you very much.
Fair play, everybody, for turning up.
Toby says, "Pau Torres is really getting on my nerves." So let's do a little Pau Torres section. We had a question about him in the Q&A that I didn't include because we just ran out of time. But it was that he wasn't on the bench even for Newcastle, and there was some link somewhere with Real Madrid. Okay. What are your thoughts on Torres? It's been a very divisive topic. Mings is better defensively, but Torres is better on the ball. Do those players complement each other? Can they play together? They both play the same side. Is one player better suited to some opposition? Can you keep chopping and changing? It's become a bit of a, not to the extent of Watkins or Duran, but kind of feels like we need to make a decision one way or the other of what the long-term plans are. Defensively, not very good, but everything else he is good at. But I don't think it's a huge coincidence that Villa's upturn in form came because of Tyrone Mings. Not solely on him, but a big part of it, I think.
I think it's the role that he plays, Mings, in terms of his character and just he's willing to die for the cause. And I think if people went back to podcasts from almost halfway through last season that have heard me absolutely singing the praises of Torres, he looked incredible, but he is defensively suspect. He can pass the ball out incredibly, but that's no good if defensively he does get out muscled. He's not the quickest. You know, he's got great feet in tight situations, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd really want our defenders to regularly need to be able to try and do a step over out of trouble. I know sometimes it helps us start an attack, but everyone's throwing £2 at us. Somebody else has put something in there. I feel like a busker.
We've got a fiver.
Good grief.
Just to clarify, this money, Reach PLC own this podcast, the money goes to the bigger pot of gold. It doesn't go to my pocket, unfortunately. So if you think you're donating to kind of help me out, it isn't, but I also can't refund it. So just a heads up.
Yes,
lad
just,
says.
Just in the interest of balance, because I'm not employed by Reach, alternatively,
Just send it to
if
you
you feel
instead.
like making a donation, not to me, but there are plenty of places that would be grateful for your £2 or £5.
Also true. Lad says, love Emery, but stubbornness cost us, and it was the wrong subs, as we definitely touched on a little bit. Danielis Dumcius, definitely pronounced that wrong. I'm not pre-vetting these, but because I've donated them, I kind of have to read them. These are the thoughts of somebody else, not me. If the mentality isn't to dominate a big team away from home, call Champions League quits because it'll be over. We've still got Old Trafford to go to. I mean, that is certainly a bogey ground and a bogey team to play against. Villa now have to go and beat Manchester United, which, on form this season, they absolutely should be doing. But that ground gives me the willies, as I'm sure it does to plenty of others as well. So, again, just makes that task all the more difficult. If we'd have won tonight, maybe you can get away with not winning against Old Trafford on the final day and still getting to the top 5. But now that pressure is onto us the other way around instead.
Alternatively, what if the story is that we go to Old Trafford and batter them last game of the season and the redemption arc is complete and we qualify for the Champions League at their place?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
It's a full turning of the tables. That's the thing with football.
If Chelsea and Forest keep losing, doesn't matter that we also have lost games.
And I've said that with the comment you've just read out about if we're not going to big clubs, to big teams to go and dominate, it's like, come on. I don't believe all this about Manchester City have been rubbish and they've had a crisis and whatever. There's a reason that they're right up the top end of the table, even though they've had a bad run. So that means if they'd have had a fairly all right run, they'd have been challenging for the title again.
Yeah,
I think we've bottled it a bit tonight. In terms of not having a real option on the break. It all just seemed so reliant on trying to hit Rashford and hoping that he'll do something with it, and we weren't even doing that. But I think we've still got enough in our arsenal to see us over the finish line for Champions League. But we are relying on other people at this stage.
Couple of more comments. Lee Magpie 1993. No guesses for who he supports. Ha ha ha!
Notts County.
Know your levels. You're lucky Eddie wasn't at the match Saturday because he always batters Villa. Nice one, Lee. Thanks for watching, mate. Appreciate that.
Yeah, he didn't a couple of seasons ago, did he? When that ended
so.
3 or 4-0. But
Anyway,
get well soon, Eddie Howe, regardless of any of that stuff. It's probably in his own best interest that he wasn't at the game on Saturday. He's probably got more important things to worry about than watching that horrible lot get spanked.
Let's talk about Rogers. He was the other player from the intro of it's time for a difficult conversation about Morgan Rogers. Stephen says, am I the only one who thinks Rogers has not been great lately? No. And Ranger says, too much hype on Rogers too early in his career.
I disagree with that. I think he's looked at his best coming in off the left, and then we moved him centrally and he seemed to fall off a bit, and now we've put him out wide right and we're just shoehorning him into the team, and that's probably more of a concern for me at the moment.
I don't think there's a massive difference between him on the left and him centrally in terms of his quality. But on the right, that's by far his weakest position. He's so ineffective out there.
Yeah, I think depending on the opposition, I think there is a difference with him on the left because he's so physically dominant, and you don't really get fullbacks that are big units. Although City's left back tonight looked like he was about 6'13". But so I think tonight perhaps might have been a game where you might have wanted him wide on the left, and when McGinn came on, I thought that's what we were going to do. I was really surprised that McGinn went wide left when he's clearly better from the right.
Yeah.
And I just think he probably would have dominated Núñez if we felt that the opportunity for getting in behind City was in that spot in the left. Then why didn't we really go for it? Ramsey's great, but he always seems to be being asked to sit a little bit deeper than whoever's playing on the opposite side at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but I think Rogers looks tired, whether that's physically, mentally. This a huge season for him to have played
Yeah,
at this level for the first time. It's crazy, but I guess he's got to do it, and Emery's always thinking long term, isn't he? So
yeah,
he's only going to get the experience if he plays.
yeah, absolutely. If you're good enough, you're old enough, or whatever way around the phrases.
Yeah.
I've got no kind of doubts about his ability or whether he's been overhyped or anything like that. I think he's a brilliant footballer, very, very talented. Has had a breakthrough season. Should be, in my opinion, the Premier League Young Player of the Year. He'll definitely be in the voting, whether he actually gets it or whether just, I don't know, some Arsenal player gets it for finishing second or something. Who knows? But Rogers should absolutely be in that conversation. I think he's been brilliant, but not been at his best in recent weeks. I didn't think he was very good against Newcastle, particularly in the first half either. And I think there's been too many occasions where he's kind of like drifting through the game a little bit, but still doesn't come off. And that's strange, especially today. Absolutely nowhere near in the game, and he's on a yellow. Like for him not to come off at the very end.
By the way,
yeah, that was really
could
odd.
have got a second yellow card.
That was really odd. I mean, he came off and he looked, again, really frustrated, didn't look good, didn't kind of high-five Unai Emery or whatever. It looked miserable, which read however into that, whatever you want. Do you want him to come off smiling and happy?
Played badly against his old club. He's wanted to go there and put in a performance, and he's been rubbish.
Opportunity to go and help Villa win the game, get into the Champions League against your former club, and you're coming off because you've been crap, and you probably could have come off after the hour mark, and you probably might have been lucky to even last as long as he did. So I don't get that as him like, oh, he's fuming at Emery, so that means he's going to want to leave in the summer. Nothing like that. I just think I think Rogers is probably one of the few players. Like if you look at Tielemans, who again I'm not bothered about picking out tonight. Was Tielemans great tonight? No, like none of us were good. I thought actually the game as a whole from both sides was pretty low quality, to be honest.
Yeah,
but Tielemans played lots of football and he's very consistent all the time, pretty much. Rogers has had spells of being brilliant or really quite ineffective, but still playing, still featuring all the time, still starting. Villa makes 7 or 8 changes, and Rogers and Tielemans and Martinez are probably the 3 that are always in there.
Consa.
Yeah. I think that's probably just catching up with Rogers a little bit. Like we're talking a lot about Villa's squad depth and being able to keep it fresh. And I think for some players that is of benefit to them. But for Rogers, as the season's gone on, I think he's got worse. So maybe this is recency bias of the last couple of weeks, but I don't know. It just feels a little bit like at one stage, like, well, yeah, obviously Rogers starts. He's brilliant. He's so good. Whereas now it's like, would he even start against Palace at Wembley? Don't know. Because he's not in form at the moment. Like, do you know what I mean? So
he will, though.
He will, yeah, he absolutely will. But there are those question marks now. About, is he effective? Because he looks tired, he looks leggy, and that could be physical, could be mental. It's probably both. As I said, it's a big season for him, big pressure, big responsibility, and he's played lots and lots of minutes, and he's been good for the most part. Like I said, should be one of the young players of the season. But over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, when Villa have actually been good and winning games, that's probably been in spite of Rogers. Like he's not been the one winning us those games.
Yeah, he's had really important. He's had really important spells in some matches for us where he's really made a difference. But in terms of really dominating a match, he hasn't done that for a little while. And I would, see that correlating with his change of position. I think he's somebody who's suffered after the January transfers rather than benefiting from it. And I think with Onana returning to fitness, and I think Emery's plan was always to have Onana and Kamara as the two shielding the defence. But now he's got them all fit, and Tielemans is playing so well, then he's got a feature. So you've then got 3 central midfielders taken care of. And yeah, I just feel like Emery perhaps needs to make some tough choices. I got swiped a little bit there by Adamski's message. Booba can't give the ball away too much. Do you know what? I actually, against PSG at Villa Park, I said to the fella next to me, I said, Kamara's a good player, but I don't think Real Madrid are going to be coming in for him anytime soon. I think he's still got some way to go. He's very good at a lot of things. But yeah, I still feel like there's something there sometimes that he perhaps gets a little bit of an easy pass a bit wrong. And it's not just him under pressure. I think there was a few of them tonight.
Yeah, so I rate Kamara really highly, and I was shocked with that comment. People can't pass, gives the ball away too much. His other skills cover up this stat. I totally agree. I thought he was pretty ineffective in both PSG games and not to anywhere near his usual standard. But I don't agree that he can't pass and gives the ball away too much.
Generally,
gives the ball away occasionally. But
there's been a few big games now this season where he's not done perhaps what he could, but then how much of that is based on what's going on around him? Because what were the passing options when we won the ball back deep in our own half? We were so compact.
And we just come off the back of the Newcastle game saying that him and Tielemans are the two of the best midfielders in the league. So he's clearly not a bad player.
I know he's a very good player, but yeah, I think sometimes he does. I think bringing that consistency into the game to really be able to stand out at all times. But I don't know. I mean, we're picking holes a bit. I think because we've got beat. I don't think as much as at the weekend I probably could have given man of the match to any of them. Tonight, I don't know if I still probably would say Ramsey was our best player. And when did he come off? After about 60 minutes or something, 65 minutes, and I still think he was our best player tonight.
Well, yeah, none of the subs did anything really. No. Richie says, and I'm going to open this up to the comments. I'm not going to be able to get a great read of this, but I can get some guesses. Richie says, Newcastle played Chelsea, Arsenal. Chelsea played Newcastle and Forest. All to play for. If we don't qualify, go and win the Europa League next year and qualified for the Champions League that way. Stay positive. I'm inclined to agree. Like, as of right this second, if we didn't get Champions League, I'd be a bit like, oh, we've come so close at the very end and just fallen short. How bloody irritating is that? Come the day after the season when we're starting to go, right, transfers, what's next season brings? When we're doing the season preview, I'm like, oh, Europa League, quite fancy that. It's the only one we've not been in this spell under Emery. He's got a great record in it. Absolutely, the aim would be to go and win it. That's no bad thing. But Champions League is the Champions League. We've all experienced it. Just to the comments, by way of yes or no, do you think Villa will finish in the top 5 or not? You and I, Robert, both said it can be done. We both think Villa have to win every game. Rob, we have to win every game.
I would say so. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by blue lights come flashing past my house. Then.
It might be the case, as I've said. Forest lose the next 2, and it doesn't matter that Villa didn't win tonight because if we win the others, we'll be fine. But I think most now. I'm trying to gauge it just by the comments. You can probably play the game with me here. What do we reckon? 75% no, roughly. It's a lot more.
Yeah, it's looking that way. It's looking that way. I still think we can. I mean, I said in the Q&A that Newcastle look really tired and Forest look really tired. I didn't see the game last night, but the stats look like
it was a poor
Forest
game.
Look really tired and playing against just a rubbish team.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I still think that it is all still to play for. I'll go back to that Ron Saunders interview again. I still think we can. Yeah, I do still think we can. I still think we can win the last 4 games of the season. I'm probably more concerned about Crystal Palace at the weekend than I am about the 4 league matches we've got left.
Yeah, me too. I think you have to win the FA Cup now. Again, talk about pressure. Objective has changed. Someone said I've just seen Emery's comments and they're a bit strange. I've not seen anything. I've tried to have a quick Google and I can't see anything.
Yeah,
I think our objectives have changed now. Could we finish top 5? Yeah, potentially. We probably have to win every game. Are we going to do that? Don't know. My gut reaction is no. I don't think we will win every game now, and that's not me being negative. It's just I just don't think we will do that. So I think our objective changes now that we're probably going to finish in the top 7 in the league. But if we can win the FA Cup as well and guarantee Europa League, it's a trophy and it's European football and the highest level of European football that we can now get into via the league anyway, because we don't think we can do Champions League. That's still a fantastic season. Yeah. So now it's all very much pressure onto Crystal Palace and possibly Man City again in the final, or Nottingham Forest, 2 teams that we've won 1, lost 1 against them. Won the home games, lost the away ones. So on neutral territory, you'd have to go into that game having to do something differently than we did in the league games against them. And would I back Emery to cook up a tactical plan for a one-off game? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course you would.
I still think Villa can win silverware. That will now be the priority, in my opinion. And the next game that we lose, if we were to lose, that really is it then. If you lost to Fulham at Villa Park, it's done then. You're not going to do it with the remaining 3 games. If you beat Fulham, but then you lose to Bournemouth, it's still done. I think you have to win all 4, personally, to even stand a chance, unless there's lots of other wild results from our rivals. But I think you're asking for too much at this stage.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree, but I don't know. I just think I think we've still got a good shout. I think 6 or 8 weeks ago we'd still take the position that we're in now gladly. So yeah, I still feel fairly confident. I think, other than the fact that we are relying on other teams, I still feel pretty confident. I've seen enough in the last few weeks, but if we do get in, it's going to be by the skin of our teeth, and there is work to be done in the summer. I talked in the Q&A about we could make a run for a. I think a title challenge was a bit much, but certainly be right at the top throughout the season rather than middling and then having a bit of a surge. But on the premise that we need to have a good summer, and I still think that's the case. If you were to take even half of these last-minute goals away, or half of these first shots on target that have gone in, we probably are sitting 2nd or 3rd at the moment. But that right side of our defence has just been a mess for ages, and we've signed 2 right backs, both of them young kids. I don't really know what the answer is. I mean, Disassi's clearly not here. He just dangled a foot at a bit of pace tonight. That was awful. And then with Cash,
Cash for the first goal as well was too easy.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he doesn't even get picked for Poland anymore. So, best will in the world. I think you look at the other teams in the top half of the table, but how many of those does Matty Cash get a guaranteed starting place?
Yeah, not many. Certainly not many in the top 6 anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go to Liverpool and replace Trent Alexander-Arnold. Who knows?
Yeah,
Let's do a little activity, Rob, to end this podcast. Right. This could be pretty bitty, but bear with us. I want to give you the fixtures of our rivals, and you give me their points tally, and we'll work out what your final league table is.
All right.
Okay, we'll start with Manchester City. They play Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Fulham. How many points? I'll try and add this up.
Probably 10 from that.
10 for City. Okay. Forest have Brentford, Palace, Leicester, West Ham, and Chelsea.
Brentford, Palace, Leicester, West Ham, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think they beat West Ham because they're rubbish. They beat Leicester because they're rubbish. Draw with Chelsea. I think they could lose to Brentford. Perhaps a draw with Palace.
7 points from 5.
Yeah, you've got to think they'll get more than that. But I don't know. No, let's go with 7. Come on.
Okay, let's go with 7.
I've got to do this so that Villa finish in the top.
I was going to say that might be the difference. Newcastle play Ipswich, Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Everton.
Maybe 9 points out of that. I think they've got some, bearing in mind they're quite leggy, I think they've got some tough games there.
Yeah. Okay, they've got 3 at home still. And Chelsea have Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester United, and Forest on the final day. That's a tough running as well.
They could conceivably only get like 4 points out of that.
They've still got 3 at home as well. They are Everton, Liverpool, and Man United at home. Newcastle and Forest are both away.
I mean, Man United are rubbish, but they have started to show that they can perform against people. And there's a reason Chelsea have fell down the table a little bit. Somebody there saying people pretending Newcastle aren't very good. It's not that, Adam. I think it's just they look tired. They've just used the same starting 11 for 7 games in a row. So, yeah, I think, we could potentially get 10 points, and then we're looking at like what goal difference with Forest.
So what do you think for Chelsea? How many points for Chelsea?
5.
5 for Chelsea. Okay. Let me just get a Premier League table up very quick. Oh,
They
no, I've done
probably
the wrong
shouldn't have
one.
got any at the weekend, and somehow they managed to get 3.
Yeah, when we did our preview thing with the other journalist, the Man City guy was like, I think we'll get 2 points from Everton and Villa, and they've got 6.
Oh,
So, that's gone well for us.
yeah,
So, Manchester City, you said 10. So that would put them on 71. Forest, you said 7. That puts them to 67. Newcastle, you said 9. That would put them to 68. And 5 for Chelsea would put them on 62. And you said, what, 9 for Villa?
yeah.
That would also be 66. Sorry. So that would put us 6th.
Yeah. So we're, as expected, we're relying on Forest to have a bit of a blunder against somebody based off that.
I think 7 underestimates them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think they'll win 3 games. So
It's just
9.
purely the tiredness factor for them. And
Yeah.
I've got a mate who's a big Forest supporter, and he actually travelled down with us to Villa Park from Stockport for the game. And, he was saying on the way down there, he said, we've looked exhausted for weeks. Did they concede, 20 shots to Tottenham last night?
Mm.
So
That's not consistent, is it? You can't keep doing that.
No.
I mean, to be fair, you said Villa 9 there, but if we do have to win all 4, as we just said, either relying on Forest dropping off or Villa have to win all 4, if we did get 12, it would put us in the top 5 in your little predicted live league table there. But it's difficult. Everyone knows it's difficult. I think even the most positive Villa fan, if you're like deludedly positive, just like, oh yeah, we'll just win everything, like, fine. If that's what gets you through the week, go for it. But I'm not that. I don't think we'll win every game. I think we have to beat Palace. Like, major head loss if we don't even make it to the cup final. Major head loss if we don't make it. So you have to beat them. I think you have to beat Fulham at home because you have to win your home games. I think you have to beat Spurs because they're crap and you're also still at home. Bournemouth away is definitely not easy, but winnable. And Old Trafford also not easy, but winnable. But like I was saying yesterday, I just don't see us winning every single game. And that's already been proven by the first game since we did that episode. And if you ask me to kind of reset that now and say, okay, can we win another 5 games on the spin? No, I don't think we can. I think it's just a step too far. And that's not like Villa are crap. I don't think they can do it. Realistically, I just don't see us doing it. I thought we would because I thought we'd get a result tonight, even a point. I'd have been pretty happy with that because it just keeps City in it. To lose in the way we did, we talk a lot about momentum. Losing like that in the last minute, and Palace is a bit of a distraction now to play in a different competition and kind of get away from the Premier League for a weekend. Imagine that goes badly as well, and season's done then. Season's absolutely done. So, let's just see. I mean, we're still going to cover every single game. So one game at a time. I'm still going to predict them to win at the weekend.
I think my kind of disappointed disposition this evening is largely not just the fact that we've lost a game. It's a couple of failings that we've seen too many times this season. Whether that's the last minute goal, the first shot on target, weakness down the right flank, both their goals came from. Goalkeeper not perhaps being quite at it for whatever reason. We've seen it a lot, so it's brought all that right back into the spotlight. And we've only got 4 games left, so they're all important. So it feels like a real setback. If we'd still got 12 matches to go, you'd be like, got beat, but hopefully we can tune that up. And it's too late now. This potentially isn't going to be the last time that we concede our first shot on target and in the last minute. At some point, that first shot on target thing goes from being an anomaly, which it perhaps was 5 or 6 goals ago, to being a problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to call it a night there, Rob, because we did a big Q&A Monday.
Yeah,
we took 45 minutes, which I was genuinely, when I sat down to set everything up, I was like, if we do 15, I'll be amazed, because I just can't. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. My brain is fried. But a decent chat, in my opinion, whether people agree or disagree, it's your prerogative. Use your own brains. If you think Villa are going to win them all, you do you. If you think we're going to lose them all, fine. Yeah, everyone's entitled to their opinion. This is just our opinion. 45 minutes after the whistle, so it is what it is. As I said, we're going to cover every single game. We'll predict Villa to win lots of games, I'm sure, because we're hopelessly romantic about this football club. And we're not just going to toss off the season now, no pun intended. Plums and whatnot. So yeah, keep the faith, etc., etc. It's just a little bit of a downer, which I'm sure most people who are level-headed will understand why we are the way we are.
Hey, congratulations to the 4,000 Manchester City fans that were still in the stadium.
Oh, the atmosphere. I know it's not popular to dig Man City, but I ain't been there to the Etihad before.
If Old Trafford's the theatre of dreams, that place is just like a pantomime.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? I can't understand that lack of atmosphere. It's so dead. I know it's just on TV, but Villa fans who were there will know, obviously, and it's a very common thing that their atmosphere isn't good and the empty had and all that kind of stuff. But become a little bit of a joke, but it really is. But it was so poor for a team that's still fighting. I know it's not a title, but they're still fighting.
Absolutely raucous.
Yeah, but crazy.
Yeah, talking about Blue Moon, it was more like blue seats tonight.
All right, that'll do. Rob, thanks for joining us as always. Thanks to the 700 people for tuning in. Fair play to you. Thank you very, very much. We've hit 20,000 subscribers in the last week, almost 20,100 already. So if you're new, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you're getting something out of this content. You've probably seen us win loads of games and be really positive, and now we're like, nah, back to reality. This is what we do. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us on this journey. We'll be back for some pre-Palace build-up later in the week, and obviously some post-match content in and around Wembley as well. So stay with us, and then it's a big run-in where they'll have to win every game, and let's just say they're going to do it, because why not? Hopelessly deluded. Right, thanks everyone for watching along or listening to this episode of the Clout Blue podcast, and let's have some funky music to end. Bye-bye.